What if I told you there's a place where time slows down, where the heartbeat of the earth pulses in the roots of ancient trees, and every whisper of wind carries the memory of 1,000 years? Tonight, we invite you into one of the most mysterious and enchanting places on our planet, the Amazon rainforest. But this isn't just a journey through trees and rivers, it's a deep, dreamlike adventure guided by a curious scientist who's come not only to study, but to listen. With every step beneath the towering canopy, strange and beautiful creatures reveal their secrets. Soft rainfall plays like a lullaby on leaves, glowing fireflies light the path like nature's lanterns, and the rhythm of the jungle gently lulls your mind into calm. But there's more to this forest than meets the eye. Silent stories of life, balance, resilience, and ancient knowledge await. From bioluminescent fungi to trees that communicate underground, this journey will change how you see the world. So take a breath, close your eyes, and follow the whispers of the Amazon. Sleep is just the beginning. Crescent moon deciduous tree. The call of the forest. Night had fallen over the edges of the world, but in one quiet corner of a small observatory nestled deep in Brazil's Acre State, a scientist named Dr. Elio Mendes sat hunched over a tangle of maps and weather reports. The air was heavy with the perfume of rain-soaked leaves, and outside, the jungle whispered. Elio was not like other researchers. While most explored data on screens, Elio chased the wild. He had grown up listening to stories from his grandmother, an Ashaninka elder, about the ancient rainforest spirits and the symphony of nature that only the truest listeners could hear. He remembered her words as clearly as if she'd spoken them that morning. The forest speaks, meu filho. And when it calls your name, you must go. Tonight, it was calling. A soft breeze rustled through his open window, carrying with it a strange scent, one he couldn't quite place. Something old. Something sacred. It smelled of orchids and smoke, of river mist and memory. He closed the notebook on his lap and stood slowly. The time had come. Outside the observatory, his research boat waited at the river dock, quietly bobbing in the moonlit current. His assistant, Anna, was already loading supplies, her flashlight beam dancing between crates of preserved samples and solar equipment. "Elio, are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern and awe. He didn't answer immediately. His eyes were locked on the dense wall of green ahead, a breath away from darkness, a heartbeat away from wonder. "It's not about being sure," he said quietly. "It's about being ready to listen." As they stepped onto the boat, Anna glanced back one last time at the lights of their safe lab, now swallowed by the dark. Somewhere beyond, the forest waited, watching. The journey ahead wasn't just about science. It was about surrender. The river shimmered under the moonlight, winding its way deeper into mystery. The engine purred softly, like a cat waiting to leap. Trees loomed overhead, leaves whispering secrets in a language older than time. And deep in the heart of the rainforest, something stirred. The breath beneath the canopy. The river snaked through the jungle like a silver serpent, guiding Elio and Anna into a realm untouched by time. Above them, towering kapok trees stretched toward the stars, their limbs entangled like the fingers of ancient gods. The night was alive, with chirping frogs, trilling insects, and the occasional haunting call of an unseen bird. Elio sat at the bow of the boat, eyes closed, listening, not just to the sounds, but to the silences between them. It was there, he believed, that the true voice of the rainforest lived. Anna, less certain, clutched her notebook and tried to capture every detail: the temperature of the air, the patterns in the fog, the way the moonlight shimmered off the surface of the river like crushed crystal. She admired Elio's reverence but struggled to let go of logic. "We're scientists," she reminded herself. "We don't chase ghosts." But something about this place made her doubt. As they rounded a bend, the river opened into a wide basin, where the jungle pressed in close and the mist thickened into a silver curtain. They shut off the engine, drifting silently into the soft hush. Fireflies lit the canopy above in rhythmic pulses, like slow, glowing breaths. Elio took a deep breath and stepped off the boat, his boots sinking into the spongy moss. "This is where she said I'd find it," he murmured, more to himself than Anna. "Find what?" she asked, stepping beside him. He looked up at a massive ceiba tree, its roots like arms holding the earth. "The breathing forest," he said. "A place where everything pulses in harmony, the animals, the soil, the wind. She said if you stood in the right place, you could feel the forest inhale." Anna raised an eyebrow. "And exhale?" He smiled softly. "Exactly." They pitched a small tent beneath the ceiba tree, careful not to disturb the delicate lichens and ferns that blanketed the forest floor. Elio set up a sensor designed to detect subtle shifts in atmospheric pressure and CO2. "Let's see if science can hear the forest breathe," he said. As night deepened, Anna sat in the doorway of the tent, watching the soft rise and fall of mist in the clearing. It did look like breathing. In the silence, something shifted. She felt it, not heard it, a vibration in the soles of her feet. The ground, pulsing gently. As though the earth itself had a heartbeat. "Elio," she whispered, not wanting to scare it away. I think I feel it." He stepped beside her and closed his eyes. And there it was, soft, steady, ancient. The forest was alive. And it had begun to speak. The map made of leaves. By morning, a fine mist still clung to the canopy, its silver threads curling like whispers around the tree limbs. Elio and Anna woke slowly, their bodies in sync with the forest's rhythm, as if the previous night's strange pulse had settled into their bones. Anna stirred from her sleeping bag, blinking at the filtered sunlight that poured through the green ceiling above. "Did we dream it?" she asked, voice still wrapped in sleep. Elio shook his head. "No. We felt it. And it left something behind." He held up the sensor data, tiny fluctuations in pressure that mirrored the rhythm they'd felt in the earth. It wasn't seismic. It wasn't wind. It was something else entirely. Something biological? After a quiet breakfast of fruit and nuts, they packed their gear and followed the ceiba tree's roots, which seemed to stretch endlessly into the forest floor. The roots coiled like veins of the earth, disappearing under leaves, then re-emerging in arcs. "Elio," Anna called out, kneeling in the soil. "Look at this." A spiral of leaves had formed in a perfect circle near the roots, not fallen randomly but arranged, deliberately. Different textures, shapes, and hues layered like a painter's palette. Bright green fern, deep red orchid leaves, golden palm fronds, and one strange, silver-blue leaf with a velvet touch Anna couldn't identify. "It's like a compass," she whispered. "Or a message." Elio crouched beside her, reverent. "Or a map." They took photos, noting the direction of the leaf pattern. North, perhaps? Or toward a destination the forest itself was guiding them to? As they moved deeper into the jungle, Anna couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched, not by a predator, but by the jungle itself. Every bird call felt like a question. Every rustling leaf, an answer. They passed through a grove of trees whose trunks shimmered with natural resin, catching the light like stained glass. Insects buzzed, but never bothered them. Birds circled overhead, but never cried alarm. Even the ants changed their patterns, no longer crossing the path, but walking beside it. "This place has intelligence," Elio said softly, scanning a vine that coiled gently around his wrist before letting go. "Not just life. Awareness." Ahead, they reached a small waterfall that spilled into a pool so clear, it reflected the canopy like a mirror. Anna dipped her fingers into the water and gasped. The pool shimmered, not just from light, but from something within it. At the bottom were more leaves, arranged in a symbol they couldn't yet decipher. She looked to Elio. "Are we following science, or is something else leading us?" Elio didn't answer. Because deep in the forest, something had begun to stir. The pool of memory. The waterfall behind them sang like a lullaby, its crystal stream catching droplets of morning light as Elio and Anna crouched by the shimmering pool. The symbol at the bottom, crafted entirely from submerged leaves, seemed too deliberate, too intricate to be natural. Anna leaned closer, her breath quiet as mist. "This is language, Elio. Maybe not written in ink or sound, but this is communication." The water rippled, not from wind, nor from their movement, but as if it responded to their presence. A slow wave curled outward from the center of the pool, where the leaf symbol began to blur, like ink dissolving in time. Elio checked his instruments. No seismic activity. No magnetic shifts. Yet still, something moved beneath them. Could the forest remember? Anna whispered. Like a brain stores memories, what if the jungle does the same, just differently? They stayed by the water's edge for hours, sketching the design, collecting samples, and listening. Birds quieted. The canopy dimmed. And for a brief moment, Anna closed her eyes. And she saw. A vision, not a dream, unfolded behind her eyelids. She stood in this very grove, but it was hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago. Ancient beings, cloaked in vines and feathers, gathered around the pool. They didn't speak in words, but in thought, vibration, and ritual. Their hands, brown and weather-worn, rearranged the leaves into living maps. They sang without sound. The trees responded. The forest listened. Anna blinked and gasped as she returned to the present. "I saw them," she murmured. "People. Guardians? They weren't afraid. They were part of this." Elio watched her, amazed. "I believe you." As the sun shifted past its midday zenith, the shimmer in the pool faded. The symbol dissolved completely. But Anna felt different. As if the forest had whispered a memory directly into her mind. They continued their journey, passing through a grove of tree trunks that had grown in a spiral, an architectural mystery of the jungle. Parrots flew overhead, not squawking but crooning soft melodies. The forest seemed to guide them gently, nudging them forward with each breath. Near dusk, they arrived at a clearing unlike any they'd seen before. Trees stood in a perfect circle, towering high, and in the center, a mound, ancient and earthen, covered in moss. The moment they stepped into the ring, the air thickened, like time itself slowed. Anna felt the hum again. Not just in the ground, but in her chest, in her very bones. "Elio," she whispered. "We're not just visitors anymore." They had become part of something much older. Much deeper. And the jungle had only just begun to reveal its secrets. The circle of giants. The mossy mound at the center of the tree circle felt like the heart of the forest. As Elio and Anna approached it, the air shifted again, heavier now, but not oppressive. It was like the forest was holding its breath, waiting. Elio knelt at the edge of the mound and ran his fingers through the moss. It was damp and warm, pulsing faintly beneath his hand. "It's not just alive," he whispered, "it's aware." Anna wandered slowly around the circle, studying the trees. Each one stood straight and tall, but not randomly spaced. The trunks formed a perfect radius, as though planted by design. "There's something under this," Anna murmured. "Not just soil and root. Something older." As night began to fall, the forest grew impossibly quiet. No frogs. No birds. Just the steady whisper of leaves. Then, faint vibrations. Thrum. 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 From deep within the mound, a rhythmic pulse rose, subtle, like a heartbeat. Elio placed his palm on the ground again and felt it clearly. "It's syncing with us," he said. "Our heartbeats, it's matching us." Anna's breath caught. Is this some kind of biofeedback system? Like the forest is listening and adjusting? They pitched their small research tent nearby, unable to resist the mystery but wary of moving too fast. As they sat near the firelight, Anna flipped through the notebook filled with sketches and field notes. Symbols were beginning to repeat. Shapes seen at the memory pool earlier now mirrored in the spiral trees and even the roots of the mound. Maybe it's a language, she said softly. But one we don't read, we feel it. Later, as sleep drifted in, Anna lay under the stars and dreamed again, not of random images, but of knowledge. Trees speaking to one another in vibrations. Flowers pulsing in rhythm with moonlight. Ancient scientists, not with lab coats and computers, but woven cloth and intuition, recording time by tree ring, by scent, by song. She woke before dawn, tears in her eyes. "Elio," she whispered, "the mound is a memory vault." He blinked awake, confused but intrigued. "What kind of memory?" "Everything," she said. "Seasons, stories, secrets. It's a living library." And with the first rays of morning sun, golden light filtered through the trees and fell directly on the center of the mound. The moss shimmered, then began to part. Something was beneath it. Not a relic. Not bones. A door. Not mechanical, but made of root and vine, as if grown by purpose over centuries. It waited patiently, its lock not one of metal, but of trust. Anna and Elio looked at one another, their hands trembling. Would they open it? Or had it already opened, to them? The door beneath the moss. The morning light slanted through the towering canopy like golden ribbons, gently touching the mound, and the strange door formed of twisted roots and vines. Elio crouched beside it, barely breathing, while Anna knelt on the opposite side, fingers hovering just above the surface. "It's not just a door," Anna whispered. "It's responding." As if in agreement, a slow rustling stirred the moss. The vines twitched, as if sensing their presence. Neither of them moved. Instead, they simply sat in the stillness, allowing their heartbeats to slow and align once more with the gentle thrum that radiated from the earth. And then, it happened. With a soft creak like old wood stretching in the morning sun, the root door began to loosen. The vines unwound gracefully, not in retreat, but in welcome. The moss lifted as though carried by invisible breath, and a faint, glowing light emerged from the darkness below. They leaned closer. A spiral staircase descended into the earth, carved not by tool, but by time. The steps were polished, almost smooth, and faintly luminous, bioluminescent fungi glowing softly along the edges. "I feel like we're being invited," Elio murmured. Anna nodded, brushing a hand against one of the glowing fungi. It shimmered in response and released a faint, sweet scent, like orchids and rain. They began the descent. With each step, the air grew cooler. Moisture clung to their skin. The spiral turned inward like a nautilus shell, gently enclosing them in silence. And yet, the deeper they went, the louder the silence seemed to become, rich, layered, alive. They reached a small chamber carved directly from earth and stone. The walls were lined with tree roots, each pulsing faintly, as if carrying messages. In the center stood a pedestal formed from crystallized sap, its amber surface gleaming softly. On top of it sat a sphere. It was unlike anything they'd seen, opaque yet glowing from within. When Anna reached toward it, the air itself shimmered, and the sphere began to vibrate gently in place. A sound filled the chamber, low, melodic, and ancient. It wasn't a sound meant for the ears but for the spirit. Images began to rise around them, projected not on walls, but into their minds. They saw dense forests breathing with the seasons. Trees communicating underground through fungal threads. Seeds sleeping for centuries until awakened by flame. And then, they saw humans. Not just from now, but from long ago. People living among the trees, caring for the forest like a family member. Singing to the plants. Asking before harvesting. Giving thanks to the soil. There were rituals, not religious, but rhythmic, meant to keep harmony. The sphere pulsed once more, and then the vision shifted, to warnings. They saw fire devouring acres of green. Machines tearing roots from the earth. Rivers blackened with waste. The trees cried out, not in fear, but in mourning. Elio and Anna stood motionless, hearts heavy. This wasn't just a message. It was a plea. When the visions faded, the sphere dimmed. The chamber went still. Elio whispered, "They're trusting us, with their story." Anna nodded. "And maybe, their future." As they climbed back into the soft morning light, the forest no longer seemed like a backdrop to research. It was a being, a teacher, and they had only just begun to learn its language. Far above them, a parrot called out from a distant branch. And in that call, Anna swore she heard something deeper, an echo of what had been, and what still could be. The language of leaves. The rainforest no longer felt vast and unknown. After discovering the glowing sphere and its haunting visions, Elio and Anna began to feel more like guests than explorers, invited into a living memory too old for words. Back at camp, they spoke little. The jungle around them hummed with quiet life, frogs chirping in the underbrush, cicadas singing in layers, and the soft rustle of leaves as the wind passed overhead like a sigh from the forest itself. Anna sat cross-legged by the campfire, turning a fern between her fingers. "I think it's all alive in a way we haven't understood yet," she murmured. "Not just biology. The forest thinks. It remembers." Elio nodded, eyes distant. "And it speaks." The next morning, they returned to the clearing. The root door was closed again, as if it had never been opened. But something had changed. As they walked deeper into the jungle, the forest seemed to guide them, not with paths, but with subtle suggestions. A falling leaf that drifted in a particular direction. A hummingbird that hovered near one vine, then darted toward another. And then, markings. On the bark of a massive ceiba tree, they noticed symbols, not carved, but formed naturally through knots, lichen, and the flow of sap. Anna reached out and traced one gently. "They're not man-made," she whispered, "but they're not random." Each symbol resembled the ones they had seen in their vision, echoes of ancient tribes and rituals passed down through generations. The shapes mirrored elements of the forest, leaves, rain, snakes, stars. "It's like the trees are writing to us," Elio said. They followed the symbols, feeling guided rather than led. The jungle became a silent storyteller, its tales stitched into every trunk, every leaf, every whisper of wind. They passed a cluster of heliconias swaying gently despite the still air, their curved petals pointing toward a narrow stream. There, a single pink blossom floated, spinning in slow, deliberate circles. Elio reached down, catching the blossom in his palm. As he did, the surrounding trees released a sudden breath, a flurry of leaves rustled above, and the scent of cinnamon and damp bark filled the air. "They're showing us," Anna said softly. "They're answering." Night fell quickly, as it always did in the rainforest. But that night, they didn't return to camp. They stayed by the stream, listening. Beneath the starlit canopy, the jungle came alive in ways science had never documented. Fireflies danced in strange, spiral patterns, mimicking the root staircase they had seen before. Somewhere nearby, a night monkey hooted, 3 calls, then silence, then one final note, like punctuation at the end of a sentence. Elio lay back against a mossy log, gazing upward. "Maybe the forest isn't just alive," he said, voice quiet. "Maybe it's aware." Anna turned to him, eyes wide. "And maybe it's waiting, for someone to finally listen." They sat in silence, not as scientists, but as students. The rainforest didn't need analysis. It needed understanding. And in the rustling of leaves above them, they began to hear something strange and beautiful. A language not spoken, but felt. A lullaby of roots and rain. A promise whispered in the stillness, there is more. The forest remembers. The next morning, Anna woke to the sound of water trickling gently over stones. The stream beside them sparkled under the golden light filtering through the trees, as if the forest had painted it with sunshine. Beside her, Elio was already awake, scribbling notes in his weather-worn journal, but his eyes weren't on the page. They were fixed on something deeper, farther, as though trying to decode the heartbeat of the jungle itself. Neither of them spoke at first. The silence wasn't empty, it was full. Full of meanings they couldn't quite name. The rustle of the trees, the chirp of distant birds, the flicker of insect wings through beams of morning light, it all seemed purposeful now. Anna rose slowly, brushing leaves from her clothes, and walked to the ceiba tree with the living symbols. Overnight, something had changed. The bark now held new forms, fresh lines of moss and sap that curled like script. It's rewriting itself, she whispered. Elio, she called, come see this. He approached slowly, reverently. It's evolving, he murmured. Or remembering. They touched the trunk together, and in that instant, the world shifted. The sunlight dimmed for a breath, and their minds filled again with vision, not as intense as before, but vivid. This time, it wasn't fire and darkness. It was harmony. A long ago time when the rainforest was tended by guardians, not gods, not spirits, but people who listened to the trees and lived in rhythm with the land. Their rituals were not superstition, but communication. They could hear the forest, its thirst, its joy, its sorrow. And they responded. They saw healers singing to vines that curled toward their voices. Children learning to read bark and leaf like a library. Elders pressing their palms to ancient roots, sharing memories with the earth. It wasn't magic. It was language, one forgotten as the world moved too fast to listen. Anna gasped, her eyes wet. We lost it. The whole world lost this connection. But the forest didn't forget, Elio said quietly. It remembers all of it. The vision faded gently, like mist lifting with the morning sun. The forest brightened once more, alive with birdsong. Back at their temporary camp, the forest had left them a gift. Lying on their mossy blanket were 3 fallen leaves, each a different shape, each marked with a pattern, dots and lines like braille made of chlorophyll. Anna held one up to the light. It's a map, she said. Or, a message. Together, they followed the direction indicated by the leaf veins. The jungle changed subtly as they walked, thicker, darker, more humid. But they were not afraid. It felt like being led by an old friend, a presence that had been waiting for them for centuries. The deeper they went, the older the forest felt. Trees with trunks like towers loomed above them. Vines dangled like curtains, parting just enough for them to pass. The air buzzed not with insects, but with memory. Suddenly, Anna stopped. Do you hear that? Elio paused. What? It's humming. Indeed, somewhere in the distance, a low and continuous hum pulsed through the air. Not mechanical. Not animal. Something ancient. Something alive. They followed it until they found the source. A massive tree stood alone in a clearing, far larger than the others, its roots stretching out like rivers across the forest floor. At its base was a hollow, glowing faintly green. The hum came from there. They approached slowly, and Anna knelt beside the tree. The glow pulsed beneath her hand, and she felt it again, that strange sensation of being watched, understood, welcomed. This is the heart, Elio said softly. The heart of the rainforest. They sat beside the ancient tree as the jungle breathed around them. And in that breath, the forest whispered once more. We remember. The breath of the jungle. As night fell again over the rainforest, Anna and Elio remained by the great glowing tree, the one they now called the heartwood. It no longer felt strange to sleep on the earth, beneath the living cathedral of leaves. In fact, it felt more like home than anywhere they had ever known. That evening, a soft mist settled over the jungle, weaving between branches and blanketing the air with a hushed stillness. Every sound became amplified, the distant call of a howler monkey, the drip of water from a bromeliad, the low hum from the heartwood's hollow. The forest was breathing. Anna lay on her side, her hand pressed gently against one of the heartwood's giant roots. "Elio," she whispered, do you think the forest knows we're here? Really knows?" Elio, lying close by, replied softly. "I think, we're not visitors anymore. We've been accepted." He reached out, pressing his hand to the same root. Immediately, a soft warmth spread through their palms, as if the tree acknowledged them. The hum deepened ever so slightly, as though responding. Then something extraordinary happened. The mist began to swirl, not randomly, but in patterns, circular, spiraling, like the sacred designs Anna had seen on ancient tribal cloth. She sat up, watching the air. The mist wasn't just moving, it was dancing. Within the patterns, faint lights flickered. Bioluminescent insects? Fire spirits? They couldn't tell. But the lights floated in harmony with the swirling air, forming shapes, a jaguar, a serpent, a hummingbird. Each figure dissolved and reformed, telling a wordless story in the air. Elio whispered, "It's language. Visual language. The forest is trying to speak," Anna breathed. They watched as the glowing mist showed images, first, humans gathering under the canopy, then flames consuming parts of the forest. The jaguar, frightened, ran. The serpent vanished. The hummingbird fell. Then the image shifted. 2 humans stood with their hands on a tree. The fire receded. The animals returned. The mist glowed warmer. A message. Not just of sorrow. But of hope. Anna wiped her eyes. "They're showing us that it's not too late. We can listen," Elio nodded. "We can help." The heartwood's hum grew deeper, slower, like a heartbeat. And from the mist, a sound rose, a soft melody, almost like singing, but in no human tongue. It was the forest's lullaby. A song it had sung for millennia, whether or not anyone was listening. Anna leaned against the trunk, her eyelids heavy. "We have to record this. We have to remember." But Elio only smiled, his eyes closing. "Some things," he said softly, "are meant to be felt, not recorded." The melody carried them gently into sleep, deeper than any they'd ever known. A dreamless, peaceful rest, as though the forest had wrapped them in its arms and whispered, "Rest now, children. You're safe here." And as they slept, the mist continued its silent story. Songs beneath the soil. Dawn rose slowly, not with blazing light, but in gentle shades of green and gold filtering through the rainforest canopy. The jungle awakened not with noise, but with reverence. Dew shimmered on fern fronds, and the air hung heavy with the scent of wet bark and sweet orchids. Anna stirred first, rising quietly from the mossy bed beneath the heartwood. She noticed that the mist had vanished, but the memory of last night's living vision still lingered, vivid and strange. She walked barefoot through a path of softly fallen leaves, letting her fingertips brush against the mossy trunks that flanked the trail. Every part of the forest now felt conscious, alive in a way she hadn't perceived before. Each vine seemed to pulse gently, each breeze carried a message. Elio joined her, eyes still half dreaming. "I had the strangest feeling in my sleep," he said. "Like the forest was singing, but through the roots." Anna stopped walking. "That's exactly what I felt too." They returned to the heartwood, and that's when they saw it, fresh patterns carved delicately into the soil around the base of the tree. Spirals, waves, jagged lines that almost resembled sound waves etched into the earth itself. Anna knelt to trace them with her finger. What if this is a song? A song written beneath the soil? Elio's eyes lit up. Resonance patterns. We saw something like this once with sand on vibrating plates. The forest might be producing sound we can't hear. But the earth responds. Excited, they placed their ears against the root bed, and listened. And there it was. Faint, impossibly low. A hum that rose and fell in rhythm, not random, not wind or water. But music. A chorus of tones, weaving through the root network like a hidden river of sound. It's communicating underground, Anna whispered. This whole forest, it's connected, Elio said, awestruck. Through sound. Through rhythm. The realization bloomed within them, every tree, every vine, every spore of fungus might be a note in this ancient symphony. A network of whispers running beneath their feet, older than language. The forest was not silent. It was simply speaking in ways humans had forgotten how to hear. Anna closed her eyes and let the sound move through her bones. This changes everything, she murmured. We thought science was about dissecting the world. But maybe real science is learning to listen. They spent the rest of the morning drawing the patterns, documenting the rhythms, humming the tones back into the forest. The jungle seemed to hum in reply. And as the sun climbed above the treetops, it filtered through in rays so golden and soft they looked like threads that tied Anna and Elio to something vast, ancient, and endlessly patient. The jungle was still singing. And now, at last, someone was listening. The forest's hidden pulse. As twilight returned to the Amazon canopy, Anna and Elio found themselves sitting beside the heartwood once more, their journals open, pages filled with looping sketches of underground rhythms and cryptic soil patterns. They were no longer mere observers, they were part of the melody, deciphering secrets murmured through the earth. Elio tapped his pencil against a root. If the forest hums a song beneath our feet, does it change over time? Does it grow sad, or excited, or quiet depending on the season? Anna smiled. Like a mood ring, but made of roots and fungus. They laughed softly, the way people do when their hearts are full of wonder and sleep is just beginning to call. Suddenly, the wind shifted. Not strong, not cold. Just different. The leaves overhead rustled in a wave, like a hand brushing against them. Elio stood slowly, narrowing his eyes. Something's moving, beneath the ground. Anna crouched and placed her palm on the earth. The hum had changed. It was more rhythmic now, like a slow heartbeat. Thump, pause, thump. It's pulsing, she whispered. Like a signal. A response. Elio, she said slowly, her eyes wide, I think it's not just sound anymore. It's trying to guide us somewhere. Without speaking further, they followed the throb of that living rhythm, stepping carefully over exposed roots and ducking beneath thick curtains of vines. The deeper they walked, the more the forest seemed to lean in, cradling them between mossy trunks like a mother tucking in her children. Eventually, the pulse led them to a clearing they had never seen before. In the center stood a ring of stones, flat, moss-covered, and ancient. They weren't placed randomly. No, they were set with purpose, like a compass or a clock. In the middle of the ring, a hollowed-out log sat like a natural drum, wrapped in vines that moved ever so slightly, as though breathing. Anna stepped forward and touched it. The forest fell utterly silent. And then, a low tone resonated, not from the drum, not from her hand, but from within her chest. The log was an amplifier. Not for sound, but for connection. And it had recognized her. Elio, she breathed, this isn't just communication. It's memory. The forest stores memories. Songs passed through time. Through trees. Like a neural network, he said, stunned. But made of wood and mycelium instead of wires. Anna looked around, feeling suddenly reverent. This is a sacred place. A library of everything the forest has felt, seen, known. As the stars began to pepper the canopy sky, the two scientists sat silently in the center of the stone ring. Not speaking. Not moving. Just listening. And somewhere deep below the surface, beneath roots and spores and time itself, the forest shared its story, slowly, softly, in pulses and tones as old as rain. Echoes in the log drum. The stone circle had gone quiet, yet Anna and Elio could still feel it, a gentle vibration like the hush before a thunderstorm, but peaceful. Sitting cross-legged beside the vine-wrapped log drum, Anna held her breath as she reached into her pocket and removed the small wooden flute the elder had given her days earlier. "Do you think it would respond?" she asked, her voice low and soft. Elio gave a slow nod. "I think it's waiting." She lifted the flute to her lips and played a single note. The sound was thin, almost shy. But it echoed in the clearing longer than it should have. The note seemed to spiral, lifted by a breeze that hadn't been there moments ago. Then, unexpectedly, the vines around the drum shifted. Not in fear. Not randomly. They moved like hands welcoming an embrace. The second note Anna played was steadier, fuller. Elio leaned forward, eyes wide. "It's singing back," he whispered. Indeed, low frequencies rose from the earth, tones deeper than human hearing, but felt through the skin. It was like standing inside the resonance of a cello, the vibrations humming in their bones. The forest had become an instrument, and Anna had struck its chord. She played slowly, as if improvising a lullaby. With each note, the stones around them glowed faintly, not with light, but with a kind of awareness, like a dream slowly blooming. Suddenly, Anna stopped. The silence that followed was richer than before. "What is it?" Elio asked. She looked up. "It showed me something. Not in words. In feeling." She placed her hand over her heart. Sadness. Not grief, but mourning. A loss. And then, relief. The sense that someone finally came to listen. Elio sat back slowly. "It's been holding this memory for a long time." Anna nodded. "And it needed to share it." The log drum pulsed once more, not demanding, not urgent, just present. As though it had released something heavy. A memory buried for centuries, now eased. Elio reached for his notebook and began sketching the layout of the stone ring. "We need to record this, Anna. This, everything. This is a sacred archive of biological emotion. We're not just researchers now, we're caretakers." They stayed there long into the night, letting the silence speak. When at last they returned to their tents beneath the stars, neither said much. But Anna's hand brushed against the flute in her pocket, and she smiled. The forest had trusted her with its story. And in return, she would carry it carefully, like a whispered song. "Where the fireflies wait." The next morning, Anna awoke to the sound of water gently lapping against the riverbank. The canopy above glowed softly with filtered morning light, and the forest shimmered as dew caught on every leaf and fern. The memory of the log drum still lingered in her chest like a tender song she couldn't stop humming in her mind. She stepped outside the tent, finding Elio crouched over his journal, sketches spread before him like a map of dreams. His eyes, though tired, sparkled. "I've been thinking," he said, pointing to a winding trail that cut across their maps. The elders spoke of a place where fireflies never leave, even in daylight. A grove they called the Lantern Hollow. Anna knelt beside him. "You think it's connected?" "I don't just think," he said, "I feel it." So they packed lightly, just their field gear, notebooks, and the flute, and followed the trail downriver. With each step, the forest grew thicker, darker. Branches arched above them like cathedral ceilings, and the air grew cooler. Strange flowers opened as they passed, releasing perfumes unlike anything Anna had ever known, earthy and electric, like spice and storm clouds. Hours passed. The sun had dipped into late afternoon when they reached a clearing that didn't feel like it belonged in this century, or any. Light trickled through branches like melted glass. But it wasn't sunlight that caught their attention. It was the glow. Tiny lights hovered among the trees, golden, slow-moving orbs that bobbed gently in the air. Fireflies. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Even in daylight, they shimmered and blinked as though the stars had dropped down to rest. Lantern Hollow. Elio exhaled. It's real. Anna stepped inside slowly, every movement deliberate, respectful. The air was thick with calm, as though even time was walking slower here. A tree stood at the center, larger than all the others, its bark dark and spiraled. At its base sat a stone basin carved with petroglyphs of swirling shapes, waves, wind, and what looked like glowing insects. Anna reached into her bag and removed the flute again. Before she could play a note, the fireflies shifted, all in unison. Not away from her. Toward her. They moved like a slow dance, circling her, pulsing softly with light. She closed her eyes and played. The song that emerged was softer than any she had played before. Each note was a breath, a heartbeat, a whisper to something ancient. The fireflies responded in kind, forming slow spirals that rose toward the canopy. Then Elio gasped. The tree at the center began to pulse, not with light, but with warmth. Faint sounds emerged, not music, but like memories played on the wind. Voices too old to understand, yet somehow familiar. Laughing. Singing. Mourning. Celebrating. The fireflies had not just come to dance. They had come to carry a message. Anna played on, her music weaving into the story told by flickering wings. Here in Lantern Hollow, the rainforest was not just surviving, it was remembering. And she, for the first time, realized they weren't visitors. They were being welcomed back. The grove beneath the moon. That night, Anna and Elio didn't speak much as they returned to camp. There was a stillness in them, a hush-like reverence. Lantern Hollow had touched something sacred in their hearts, and no words could quite contain the feeling. After a light meal, Anna sat cross-legged beneath a tree, the flute resting in her lap. The forest around them was settling into sleep, leaf by leaf, insect by insect. Elio scribbled in his journal, the rustle of the pages soft as breathing. Do you think they were memories? Anna finally asked, her voice low, barely louder than the wind. Elio paused. Yes. But not just the forest's. Ours too. Something old and shared. Something we forgot we belonged to. Anna looked up through the canopy where slivers of moonlight peeked through. It felt like the rainforest was trying to teach us. Not through facts. But feeling. They decided to follow the moonlight. The fireflies had not returned, but a pale silver glow stretched between the trees, guiding them deeper into the forest. They walked in silence, boots sinking into soft moss, the night alive with gentle chirps and distant hoots. Soon, they found themselves in a grove shaped like a crescent moon, open to the sky above. The stars shimmered so clearly it felt like they could fall into them. In the center of the grove stood a circle of stones, each carved with markings, smoothed by time and moss. At the center was a smooth rock slab, polished by generations of weather and maybe something more deliberate, hands, perhaps. Offering. Ceremony. They sat side by side. Anna placed the flute on the stone and closed her eyes. Around them, the night sounds wove together, crickets, tree frogs, the slow drip of water. Elio leaned back on his elbows and stared upward. Do you ever wonder, he said, if the stars are watching us the way we watch them? Anna smiled. Maybe that's why the forest brought us here. To look back. She felt it again then, that quiet pull from within. The same one she'd felt in Lantern Hollow. A presence. A memory. The music wasn't only in the flute. It was in her breath. In the rustling trees. In the rhythm of all living things. She hummed softly, the melody simple, like a lullaby sung by the earth itself. And the forest responded. The leaves shimmered faintly in the moonlight, swaying even though the wind was still. A gentle vibration pulsed beneath them, as if the roots below were humming too. The rainforest was singing back. It didn't need words. Just stillness. Just heart. Elio whispered, "This place. It's not about discovering new things." Anna nodded, eyes closed. "It's about remembering." And as they sat there, two small lives under an endless sky, the forest held them close, as if cradling its own. The sleep of trees. Dawn came gently to the Amazon. Not with blinding light or sudden sound, but with a softening of shadows, a gradual warming of air. The forest, in all its ancient wisdom, knew how to awaken slowly, leaf by leaf, breath by breath. Anna stirred first. The crescent grove still shimmered with the memory of night. The flute remained untouched on the stone, yet somehow Anna felt it had played again after they drifted off, like a lullaby whispered into their dreams by the forest itself. Elio was still asleep, arms crossed beneath his head, a rare peace on his face. Anna watched him for a moment, as still as the vines around them. Then, quietly, she stood and stepped out into the hush of morning. The grove behind her seemed to sigh, a farewell or a benediction. As she moved forward. She hadn't meant to go far, but something, some silent curiosity, pulled her deeper into the trees. The light was golden now, weaving through the high canopy like soft lace. Each step felt both aimless and destined, as if her feet followed an invisible thread. That's when she saw them. Trees. Dozens of them. But not just standing. Breathing. She stopped. Yes, she could feel it. These trees were asleep. Their leaves barely moved, their bark was warm, and beneath her feet, the earth vibrated gently. As if in slumber. As if the rainforest itself dreamed beneath her. Elio joined her minutes later, rubbing his eyes. You felt it too? Anna nodded. They're sleeping. He placed a hand on the nearest trunk. I read once that trees rest at night. That their branches relax, their systems slow down. But this isn't just biology, Anna whispered. It's something more. And then, softly, it began, a slow, collective stir among the trees. Not from wind, but from life. Leaves rustled. Branches stretched upward, like arms after a deep nap. The whole grove awakened in unison, a cathedral of green sighing back into motion. The air changed. Warmer. Sweeter. A deep, slow harmony rose, not heard, but felt. As if the trees sang a silent hymn to the new day. And Anna and Elio stood at the very heart of it, quiet witnesses to the waking breath of nature. Elio pulled out his notebook but didn't write. Instead, he listened. Not to sounds, but to meaning. To the invisible messages passed between roots and leaves. The memory of rain, the longing for light, the stories carved by time and moss. Anna whispered, they were never asleep. Just still enough to remember. They sat down in silence, backs resting against the tree trunks. The world moved softly around them. Birds called. Insects hummed. But deeper than all that was a rhythm, one Anna now recognized. The heartbeat of the forest. A pulse they were part of. As they rested, Anna imagined roots stretching gently through the soil, crisscrossing with the roots of other trees, other lives. A network of memory and breath and quiet wisdom. And for the first time, she didn't want to explore more. She wanted to be still. To let the forest speak. And in that stillness, the forest whispered, welcome back. The river that remembers. Beneath the dappled canopy, the river shimmered like liquid glass, winding through the jungle like a silver ribbon tied to time itself. Anna and Elio stood at its edge, silent. It had taken them a full morning to arrive at this place, following winding root paths and nearly invisible animal trails. But it wasn't the destination that made Anna's breath catch, it was the feeling. The river felt alive. Not in the way all rivers flow and move, but in a way that suggested presence. It pulsed softly against the bank, not hurried, not idle, as if it was listening before it spoke. Elio knelt beside it, letting his fingers skim the surface. "It's warmer than it should be," he murmured. "But not just with heat. There's something in it. Something old." Anna crouched beside him. "I read a story once, an old myth, that said rivers carry memory. That every drop holds the past." Elio smiled. "A freshwater library." Anna leaned closer, watching tiny whirlpools dance like secret symbols. The river seemed to respond, rippling outward in slow, gentle waves. Suddenly, Anna saw something. Not with her eyes, but somewhere behind them. A vision. A child, barefooted and laughing, running through the same forest, centuries ago. Her hair was woven with flowers, and her voice was as bright as birdsong. She ran to the river and whispered into it. Words lost to time. The river, in turn, shimmered back. Then, like mist dissolving, the vision faded. Anna blinked. Elio noticed her stillness. "What did you see?" Anna hesitated. "A girl. Long ago." She spoke to the river, and it answered. Elio's eyes widened. "You saw that?" She nodded slowly. "I think we're beyond science now," Elio said, his voice soft with awe. "This is something deeper. Older than language. Older than names." They sat on a smooth boulder beside the bank, letting the rhythmic lull of the water lull their thoughts. Time slowed. Birds called across the water. A butterfly landed briefly on Anna's knee, then lifted away like a whispered thought. The river continued to hum, not in sound, but in presence. Anna picked up a stone, smoothed by centuries, and dropped it gently into the current. As it vanished, she whispered, "Tell them we were here." The water rippled once, like a nod. Elio leaned back. "Maybe this river really does remember everything it touches." Anna whispered, "Then maybe it remembers us already." They sat a long time in silence, letting the ancient song of water wrap around them like a dream. The breeze carried a faint scent of blossoms and moss. And in that quiet hour, the Amazon wrapped them in a cradle of memory. The sun passed overhead, casting gold and shadow upon the river's slow dance. And the river, patient and timeless, whispered back. "You are not the first. You are not the last. But you are part of me now." The lantern trees. The trail narrowed as Anna and Elio ventured deeper into the jungle, their path now guided more by instinct than by map. Here, the forest grew denser, the air rich with the scent of earth and rain. The sound softened, no more parrots or chattering monkeys, only the gentle hum of unseen insects and the occasional low rustle of leaves stirred by the breeze. Then, they saw it. A faint glow ahead, flickering softly like a dream in motion. "Do you see that?" Anna whispered, though there was no one around to overhear. Elio nodded, eyes wide. "It looks like lanterns." As they stepped closer, they found themselves standing before a grove of trees unlike any they had ever seen. Their bark was silver gray, smooth and cool, with thin vines spiraling around them like threads of light. But it was the fruits, if they were fruits, that left the travelers breathless. Suspended from the branches were luminous orbs, glowing with a gentle golden light. They hung like paper lanterns in a temple, casting warm halos through the mist. "The lantern trees," Anna murmured, recalling a single page from an old field journal they had studied weeks ago. "The locals call them illuminas. No one's ever documented them in person." The glow wasn't harsh or artificial. It was soothing, like fireflies singing in slow motion. Elio reached toward one of the glowing fruits but paused before touching it. It's warm, almost like it's alive. Anna looked around the grove. It's like they're communicating. Maybe not with sound or movement, but with light. They sat beneath the largest of the trees. Anna leaned back against the bark, and to her surprise, it pulsed, gently, slowly, as if matching her breath. This feels like, she began, struggling to find the right word, a sacred place. Elio agreed silently, his gaze lost in the canopy above. Light shifted with the breeze, patterns dancing across the forest floor like ripples of thought. Maybe these trees store sunlight, he whispered. Or maybe, they remember every sunrise they've ever seen. Anna closed her eyes, letting the glow seep through her lids. In that moment, time fell away. There were no cities, no research grants, no ticking clocks. Just the soft language of the forest, measured not in hours, but in light and leaf and lingering breath. Night began to fall, though the grove remained gently lit. The trees offered their glow not as a beacon but as a lullaby. Anna curled into her sleeping mat beneath the branches, while Elio remained seated, mesmerized. As sleep came to claim them, the trees glowed a little brighter, just enough to keep the darkness tender. And somewhere in the quiet, the rainforest whispered again. Here, even the night carries light. Here, silence speaks in golden tones. Here, you are remembered. The memory pool. By morning, Anna and Elio awoke to the soft shimmer of light filtering through the lantern trees. Their dreams had been strange, vivid, fragments of childhood, forgotten laughter, the sound of rain on windows from a time long ago. It felt as if the trees had stirred something deep within their minds. I dreamt of my grandmother's garden, Anna said as she packed her satchel. I haven't thought about it in years. Elio gave a half-smile. I dreamt I was 6 again, hiding under the kitchen table during a thunderstorm. They exchanged a glance, quietly astonished. Was it coincidence, or had the lantern trees done something? They continued walking, the ground now soft and springy beneath their feet, until the trees began to part, and the sound of gently trickling water reached their ears. Then, before them, it appeared. A crystalline pool nestled in a natural basin, surrounded by smooth stone and moss. Water seeped in from several small waterfalls, clear and glowing with an inner radiance that seemed to come from below. Mist hung above the surface, curling like breath. The memory pool, Anna whispered. I read a single sentence about it once. A legend. They say if you sit beside it, it shows you the memory you most need. Elio knelt by the edge and stared into the water. At first, he saw nothing, just the reflection of trees and sky. But slowly, an image began to take shape beneath the surface, a younger version of himself, arguing with his father. Then silence. Then tears. Then a final hug before they drifted apart for years. Elio blinked. How? But the pool didn't just show memories. It soothed them. Healed them. The images came with warmth, with understanding. Not regret, but peace. They remained there for hours. As the sun climbed higher, dragonflies danced over the water, and butterflies landed on their packs. The jungle seemed to lean in, watching over them like an old friend. Later, Anna dipped her hand into the pool. The water was cool, but not cold. As she pulled it back, she found her palm glowing faintly with bioluminescent shimmer. Elio, she whispered. I think this place, it wants to be remembered. By us. He nodded, eyes wide. Maybe that's what the rainforest does. It doesn't just survive, it holds the stories of everything that's ever passed through it. They recorded what they could, though how could a camera truly capture what the soul felt? That night, they camped by the pool. No fire, just starlight and the pool's gentle glow. No need for words. Only the quiet comfort of two people who had begun to understand something greater than themselves. And as sleep gently cradled them once more, the rainforest whispered. To remember is to live twice. To see is not enough. You must feel it. The echo chamber. As dawn stretched across the jungle, mist curling like breath through the leaves, Anna and Elio rose with a strange sense of renewal. The memory pool had done something they couldn't quite name, but they both felt lighter. More whole. Their journey continued, and soon, they entered a region where the forest changed again. The canopy arched higher. Ferns stood tall like sentinels, and vines hung down like silver threads. But it was the sound that caught their attention first. Every footstep echoed. Every whisper returned. Not loudly, not mockingly, but softly. Gently. As if the rainforest was repeating back what was said, not to disturb, but to understand. They had entered the echo chamber. A natural amphitheater shaped by the forest itself. Large, dome-like trees circled a shallow valley, their trunks hollowed and porous like ancient flutes. The acoustics were ethereal. Even the rustling of their jackets was mirrored in whispers that came from the trees themselves. Anna stopped, enchanted. Is it, us? Elio nodded. The forest is listening. And answering. When Anna laughed softly, the sound returned, not as an exact echo, but as a harmonic echo. It had pitch and tone, almost like a reply in song. Curious, Elio pulled a small bamboo flute from his satchel. He had brought it more as a joke than a tool. He blew gently. The note rang out, and was caught by the chamber, split into melodies, mirrored back as a harmony of birdsong and wind. It was as though the jungle itself was composing a response. Anna's eyes sparkled. This isn't just sound. This is resonance. Elio added, it's like the rainforest is remembering every sound ever made here. And shaping it back to us in music. They experimented with quiet claps, spoken words, short bursts of song. Each time, the jungle responded with a unique reply. Not mimicry, but conversation. As the sun moved, the sounds shifted. Insects hummed in counterpoint. Birds trilled in duets with their echoes. Even the rustle of leaves had a rhythm to it. And then, something unexpected. A voice. Not theirs. Not a human's. A layered murmur that rose from the trunks around them, in a language neither recognized yet deeply felt. It wasn't frightening. It was ancestral. Elio leaned closer to one tree, palm pressed to its bark. Do you hear it? Anna, eyes closed, whispered, yes. It's not speaking to our ears, it's speaking to memory. To instinct. The echo chamber was a place not of performance, but of remembrance. A space where sound and soul intertwined. Where the rainforest replayed the forgotten and transformed noise into meaning. They stayed until twilight, the forest slowly quieting into a hush that felt sacred. Before they left, Anna whispered into the chamber, "Thank you." And the forest answered, in a harmony of leaves and low wind, "You are welcome." The rain chant. Nightfall came in gently, draping the echo chamber in velvet shadows and the soft murmurs of wind-kissed leaves. Anna and Elio had left the resonant grove behind, but its presence lingered in their minds like a lullaby they couldn't quite stop humming. As they moved deeper into the forest, the air thickened. The stars vanished behind rising clouds, and the soft chorus of nocturnal life swelled with anticipation. Something was coming. Not danger, something more ancient and vital. The sky let out a long sigh, and the first drop of rain fell like a bell struck in silence. One drop, then another, then 1,000 more, each striking leaf, bark, moss, and soil in rhythm so layered they almost became indistinguishable from melody. Anna lifted her hand to the sky and smiled. The rain chant. Elio, holding a waterproof notebook to his chest, nodded. Every tribe in this region has their version. They say the rain sings its own language. That it knows when you're listening. They took shelter beneath the wide leaves of a ceiba tree, its umbrella-like branches reaching so far it created a natural cathedral above them. The rain intensified. Not a storm, not a torrent, just steady, harmonious life water. From beneath their cover, they watched as the forest awakened in response. Leaves curled up to drink. Tree frogs began their chorus. Mushrooms seemed to blossom in fast forward, thriving on the sudden moisture. The entire forest pulsed, as if the rain were its heartbeat. And the sounds. Each surface had its own instrument, the patter on banana leaves like soft drums, the splash on moss like cymbals, the drip through vines like harp strings. The forest was not merely getting wet, it was singing. Anna closed her eyes and whispered, "It feels like it's speaking directly to us." Elio responded, "Maybe it's not just water falling. Maybe it's memory washing down from the sky." They sat quietly as the rain deepened. It wrapped around them, not cold, but comforting. As if every drop carried with it 1,000 stories, the birth of a tree, the whisper of an animal, the quiet endurance of the soil. And soon, the pair felt themselves letting go. The mental chatter of the outside world, emails, deadlines, city sounds, dissolved into the rhythmic hush. Time, too, slowed. It was as if the very idea of past and future had been smoothed over by the soft brush of the rain. Then Anna remembered a story an elder had told her once. When the forest cries, it's not because it's sad. It's teaching. It's healing. In that moment, Anna understood. The rain wasn't something falling on the forest, it was the forest. It was its voice, its cleansing breath, its way of letting everything begin again. And beneath that ceiba canopy, Elio quietly hummed a tune the rain had written for them. Not for fame. Not for recording. Just for this moment. For the jungle. For the silence it sang from. And for the science that lives in whispers. The tree that remembers. The morning after the rain was sacredly still. The forest, once humming with the patter of falling water, now held its breath in that rare, golden silence only known to places that have just been bathed by the sky. Anna awoke to the soft light filtering through moisture-laced leaves, where every droplet clung like a jewel. The scent of wet earth was thick, grounding, and timeless. Elio was already up, crouched beside something vast and ancient. It was a kapok tree, standing like a giant among giants. Its bark was furrowed and twisted, like the lines of an elder's hands, and its roots, those vast, sweeping buttresses, seemed to rise from the earth as if lifting the entire forest on their shoulders. Elio looked up at Anna and whispered, "This is the memory tree." They approached it with reverence. Around the base of the tree were markings, not carvings, not human-made, but natural patterns in the bark that looked startlingly like symbols. Swirls, ridges, scars from lightning, and claw marks from animals that had visited across generations. Anna laid a palm against the bark. "It feels alive," she said softly. "Not just biologically. Like it knows we're here." Elio nodded. Kapok trees live for centuries. This one is estimated to be over 500 years old. It's outlived tribes, floods, droughts. Maybe even forgotten languages. They circled the trunk slowly. With every step, they discovered signs of life that had passed through, fungus patterns, hummingbird nests woven in hidden alcoves, epiphytes growing from the bark like second skins. "This tree has held everything," Anna murmured. "It's a library written in moss and wood." As they sat beneath its sprawling branches, the air around them seemed to thicken with meaning. Elio opened his notebook but didn't write. He just listened. And as the breeze stirred the leaves high above, it brought with it faint, shifting sounds, whispers? Echoes? Anna wasn't sure. It was as if the tree were telling stories, but not in words. In pulses. In silence. In breath. Elio finally spoke. They say the rainforest doesn't forget. That every heartbeat, every footprint, every fallen feather is somehow remembered. Maybe this is how. Anna leaned back against the kapok's trunk, closing her eyes. She imagined the tree watching the stars change, the seasons shift, the rivers flood and recede. A still witness to the chaos and beauty of life. And in that quiet hour, the tree seemed to share something. Not knowledge in the traditional sense, but a feeling of presence. Of having seen much, and judged none of it. Perhaps that was its secret. To endure not by resisting, but by allowing. To hold the world not in grasp, but in welcome. And so the scientist and the explorer sat with the elder of the forest, listening to the kind of story that only trees can tell. No beginning. No end. Just growth, decay, and peace. The river's secret song. That evening, Anna and Elio set up camp beside a narrow tributary of the Amazon, a mirror-like stream curling quietly through dense underbrush like a silver ribbon. The sun had dipped just below the canopy line, scattering rays of amber and gold across the water's surface. It was the kind of light that made even silence feel holy. Elio stood at the riverbank, watching the current drift lazily past his boots. Anna was seated nearby with a hand skimming the water's edge, lost in a trance of ripples and reflections. "Listen," Elio said gently, "can you hear it?" At first, Anna thought he meant the usual symphony of the jungle, chirping insects, distant frog croaks, the rustling of leaves as birds settled in for the night. But then, beneath it all, there was something else. A murmur. Low, rhythmic. Almost like a voice. It wasn't a sound in the traditional sense, it was felt more than heard. A gentle pressure against the senses, like the hum of a deep note in the chest. The river was speaking. Not in words, not in any language she knew, but in rhythm, vibration, and patience. "It's the water," Elio whispered. "Always moving, always remembering. The river holds stories the trees forget. It carries them." Anna closed her eyes. In her mind, the current became a lifeline, one that stretched backward through time. She imagined raindrops falling in the Andes, thousands of miles away, tumbling down rock faces, converging into streams, winding through mountains and villages before arriving here, whispering their stories to the jungle. The river knew of the ancient people who once bathed in its arms. It remembered the sound of oars, the drift of floating lanterns, the songs of paddling tribes. It remembered the jaguar who leapt across its surface in the stillness of dawn. It remembered floods and droughts and the silence after thunder. And here they were, two small humans, sitting by its edge, listening. Elio drew a small copper tuning fork from his bag and gently tapped it against a stone. He lowered it into the river. Anna leaned in. As the vibration faded, the water shimmered with energy. "The sound never really stops," he said. "It just transforms. Travels." Anna smiled softly. "Like us." The fireflies began to blink around them, glowing like tiny stars drawn to the current. The trees leaned in, the sky darkened, and the river continued its song, soft, steady, eternal. Tonight, Anna and Elio would sleep by its side, their dreams guided not by maps or logic, but by rhythm, carried forward by a current older than memory. And in that soft hum, somewhere between silence and music, they found something deeply human. Belonging. Surrender. Peace. The tree of time. By morning, a gentle mist rose from the river, wrapping Anna and Elio's camp in a soft, cotton-like veil. Dewdrops clung to their hammocks and tents like nature's own pearls, while birds sang their slow, waking songs from high branches above. They packed in silence, letting the stillness linger before stepping back into the forest's embrace. Today's destination was one Elio had spoken of with reverence since the start of their journey, a place the locals referred to as the Tree of Time. The hike was long and winding. The jungle shifted as they moved deeper into untouched terrain. Sunlight filtered through dense green like sacred light through stained glass. The air grew quieter. Even the animals seemed to tread softly here. After several hours, they reached a clearing where time itself seemed to pause. At its center stood a ceiba tree, taller and broader than any Anna had ever seen. Its trunk was as wide as a house, its roots sprawled like the arms of ancient gods, and its crown towered above the canopy, catching the sunlight like a crown of light. Elio stood still. They say this tree is over 1,000 years old. Anna walked slowly to the base and placed her palm against its bark. It was warm. Suddenly, a rush of sensations surged through her, memories not her own. Rainstorms in centuries past. Fires that had come and gone. Children's laughter in forgotten dialects. The hush of eclipse shadows drifting over the land. She pulled her hand back and gasped softly. "It's like it remembers," she whispered. Elio nodded. The shamans believe trees like this are the earth's memory. They store more than nutrients, they store dreams, regrets, joy, even grief. Together, they circled the great trunk, tracing its roots and feeling the quiet hum beneath their feet. It was like standing at the axis of a great clock, the heart of the forest's heartbeat. Near one root, Elio showed Anna a set of carvings, ancient, worn symbols etched in a spiral, pointing inward like a map. He whispered, "Many believe this is where spirits return to rest." They sat beneath its boughs for hours, not speaking, not needing to. The air around the ceiba was thick with silence, but not emptiness, it was the kind of silence that held everything. And then, as the sun began its descent, the tree shifted. Its leaves stirred though there was no wind. A low creaking sound echoed from its limbs, a deep, timbered breath. As if acknowledging them. Anna closed her eyes, leaning against the trunk. For a brief moment, she felt herself stretch beyond her body, into the roots, the soil, the sap. She became the rain, falling through time. And in that timeless moment, she realized, some trees don't just grow, they remember for us. When she opened her eyes, the forest was the same, and yet completely changed. They walked away in the dusk, quieter than before. The tree of time stood behind them, watching, waiting, and forever whispering. The echoes beneath the earth. As Anna and Elio left the sacred presence of the tree of time, the forest seemed to grow quieter still, as though the great ceiba had passed along a silent request, "Walk softly, for you now carry its memory." Their journey continued downstream, where the river split into hidden channels, weaving through ancient land barely touched by light or time. The guide's map marked this place with a single symbol, a spiral within a spiral. A cave system known to few and entered by even fewer. By mid-afternoon, they reached the entrance, a narrow crack in a moss-covered limestone wall, half swallowed by hanging vines and creeping orchids. It looked unassuming, almost shy. But as they stepped through, a different world opened up. The temperature dropped immediately. The air was cool, damp, and still. The floor beneath their boots turned from soft earth to smooth stone, and their flashlights danced along walls etched with strange, rhythmic carvings. Spirals, circles, waveforms that seemed to hum faintly beneath the rock. "These are sound echoes," Elio whispered. The Yanomami believe that some caves carry the songs of ancestors, literally embedded in the stone. They moved deeper. The tunnel widened into chambers of quartz and dripping stalactites, each one producing a different pitch when struck gently. Anna tapped a nearby column, and a soft chime echoed around them like a lullaby played on crystal. Elio smiled. "This is a musical cave. Every sound is held, then returned." As they explored, Anna noticed how every breath, every footstep echoed not once, but twice, as if something ancient repeated her motions just behind the veil of stone. In one chamber, a pool reflected the ceiling so perfectly that it seemed like a window to another world. Anna kneeled at the edge, mesmerized. The water shimmered with phosphorescent algae, glowing faint green and gold. She whispered a question to the water, "Why are you so quiet?" And her voice returned not as an echo, but as a hum, low and melodic, as if the cave itself were answering with a lullaby. They rested in the central chamber, lying back on the smooth stone floor. The ceiling above was patterned with mineral constellations, like a replica of the night sky underground. Elio said softly, "Many believe this cave is older than the forest above it. That the roots of the Amazon were born from these chambers, like a dream rising upward." Anna let the silence wrap around her like a blanket. It wasn't emptiness, it was full of history, of listening. A gentle vibration pulsed beneath her back. Not threatening, but steady. She closed her eyes and imagined herself a part of this rock, this story, layered and slow, a dreamer in the veins of the earth. And in that stillness, something incredible happened. Anna heard a song, not in her ears, but in her bones. A rhythm older than language, deeper than thought. It sounded like breath, rain, laughter, grief, all folded into one. The earth was singing. And she was listening. The eternal canopy. As the scientist stepped quietly onto the soft moss beneath the towering sabas, her senses tingled. Above her, the leafy canopy shimmered in the dappled glow of moonlight filtered through thick layers of green. The forest at night sang a different tune, gentler, deeper, and more mysterious. Crickets chirped a rhythm, while distant howler monkeys gave soft farewell calls to the fading day. She walked slowly, her footsteps careful, reverent, as if she feared disturbing some ancient dream. Around her, fireflies glimmered like suspended stars, and night-blooming flowers released their scents like whispered secrets. Tonight wasn't about exploration or data. It was a time to simply be, to breathe the same air as the trees, to match her heartbeat to the pulse of the forest, to realize that she, too, was part of this vast, humming, living system. She sat near a shallow stream, its waters curling around pebbles with the soft lullaby of sleep. As her eyes grew heavy, she leaned back against a warm root, the breath of the forest wrapping around her like a blanket. And as sleep finally took her, she dreamed of vines curling across stars, rivers flowing through galaxies, and the eternal whispers of the Amazon, forever singing her to rest.